right use of will as a healing power for yourself and the earth. Remedial medicine is not really healing. It is the suppressing, neutralizing, or banishing of symptoms. Consciousness originates every imbalance that manifests in the body. Only seeking and healing the cause in the consciousness will produce true healing. Symptoms will help you find their cause and should really only be relieved if you feel you must have a rest from seeking the cause. Symptomatic relief generally only puts off acceptance of the teachings that symptoms have to give you. Body does not just get sick, contrary to popular opinion. Disease does not just travel from person to person, and germs do not spread disease. Modern science has been spending a lot of time and money tracking down the cause of disease, but has limited the search so far to studying only the symptomatic result of spiritual imbalance. The fact of the matter is that even though it was judged against as unscientific because it could not be explained, disease organisms are always present and arise when body is making an attempt to clear imbalance it can no longer hold. Disease organisms are actually a part of the body that is always ready to clear it of any invasion that is life-threatening. Any other way of seeing them is only denying a part of yourself. The need for this sort of clearance always warns you first with a feeling of getting sick. If you release everything that is present in this sick feeling, you do not need to get sick. Most people have a habit pattern of ignoring this warning and also of suppressing symptoms until the body is holding so much that symptoms are then only the tip of the iceberg of undermined will. The feelings need unconditional acceptance, and since expression is part of the feelings, expression must also be given unconditional acceptance. Mentalizing feelings by talking about them is not the way I want this expression to take place. The more you express from the body, in body's way of expressing, with movement and sound, the more you will clear out of body before it must manifest illness as an attempt to clear itself. Aging indicates that the body is not being allowed to clear itself and nourish those places with my light. Death means that body has no other recourse because it cannot hold any more. When the body dies, it cannot clear itself. If it has any hope of clearing itself, it must participate in reincarnation. The way the body has been handling this problem has been to bring forward only some of its need to clear at any one time. In terms of reincarnation, this means that people have been reincarnating with only part of themselves. See that increasing the holding pattern in the part that you have with you now is really imperiling your ability to clear at all. This pattern of increasing personal denial, along with the denial of the earth itself, is why I must now intervene. If you feel that you are holding too much to risk clearing yourself by starting with what is in this book, I suggest that you trust your own feelings here. Remember that even small releases will help you, and if it is really too much for you, appeal to me to bring you another way to heal yourself. I am helping everyone, and those that have intent to heal themselves now will receive help from me. The use of drugs to heal yourself, including all the currently popular consciousness-altering drugs, is not being suggested by me because there is risk involved that you will then have to reclaim your personal power from the drugs. This might even mean going over all the steps again without the drugs. When you have cleared enough of what you have present with you, you are going to need to reclaim the rest of you. This is the part of you that has not expressed itself yet in your present life, because this denied part had to wait until you could accept it before it could come forward for clearance. The actual surrender to your own will is important, but this doesn't mean that the will is supposed to control you. You must not deny anything in yourself. The spirit and the will must balance in the heart. The will is needing to respond to everything the spirit has to suggest. If the will is not wanting to accept something from the spirit needs to give the will as much understanding about this as the will can accept. If the will still cannot align with the spirit on something, the spirit has to realize that it is not the right time. Judgment is not to be made that something cannot happen because the will cannot do it yet. Spirit forcing will to do things before it was ready created the original imbalance. When the will then could not accept the experience it was having, the spirit did not accept this pain from the will. The will then had to hold it in the body until the spirit would accept it. The spirit has to accept this pain sooner or later because it was causal here. The will is only supposed to respond. But overpowered will often gets manipulative in an effort to protect itself. The overpowering of the will has prevented it from feeling enough trust in the spirit to surrender to it. Surrender means you have unconditional acceptance. This is never achieved in any real way by overpowering something until it has to surrender. Neither will nor spirit is to be overpowered, and nothing is to be denied. When spirit and will both have unconditional acceptance of each other, each can fulfill its role. The heart then receives this balanced flow of loving energy, and body can manifest it freely. Once you have begun the healing process that leads to alignment of the spirit and the will within you as an individual, you will find that your own outer reality is going to change in accordance with this. Once you have stopped denying yourself, you need to stop denying outer reality too. This is not to say that you should rush out and begin remodeling the earth, but in fact your own increasing power to transform and heal yourself is going to help transform and heal the earth. You need to assist me here because it is part of taking responsibility for your own home planet. Instead of denying how you feel about what is happening on earth, realize that this denial is a way in which power is being given to the very ones denying free will on earth. The fact that dissidents have been arrested and effective actions to curtail the overriding of the earth and of free will have so far met with so much denial is no reason to believe it will continue to be that way. If denial ends in the ones wishing to protect themselves and the earth from being overridden, the power is then sufficient to stop it. The way to protect yourself and the earth does not require doing anything you do not want to do either. You need only express the feelings you have about what is happening on earth to me and to the people with whom you have feeling of trust. If this is what you feel you can do, this is fine and will be effective. Do not underestimate the power of this expression either. The alignment you have when you express yourself determines the power your expression will have. To be able to ask me for something and be in alignment, you need to know what all of you wants. If from a place of partial alignment you ask me, for example, to heal the earth, I will respond to that request anyway, because it's for the highest good of the earth. You need to realize that I must do this at the right time and in the way in which I need to do it. And if you ask, for example, me to heal you and the earth right now, I must also do this at the right time and in the way in which it needs to be done. It may appear that I am not answering these requests if there is a time lag, but if you have denial of part of yourself, you are not in touch with what could be holding back the immediate response and instantaneous healing. I must heal you in the way that is appropriate for you. The denial in many people is sufficient to magnetically repel from the self the very things the conscious part wants to draw. What is denied is not accepted by the conscious self and is pushed away from the consciousness. The denied part still has attractive power, and you need to know what it is doing. To heal yourself and the earth, an end to denial is needed so that you have an alignment about what healing is for you and the earth. If part of you wants me to heal you and the earth, and you hold in denial a part that is furious at me for not doing this already, for example, this denied part cannot accept my help because it does not believe I am giving it. I cannot heal part of you if it means lifting you away from your denial. Then you are not healed. I cannot lift you away from a part of yourself because you must take responsibility for all of yourself. When you have denial present, I heal you in the way I can heal you, which is to bring experiences to help you recognize your own denial. Understanding that to heal the earth, you need to heal yourself first. In ending your own denial, you can tell me everything you like and don't like about the reality you live in, and also how you want your reality to be. Then you have alignment with your right place and can attract it to you. When you have denial that does not want the same thing as you do, I cannot answer one part of you without seeming to deny the other part of you. Since I will not deny anything, I have solved this problem by giving everyone what is needed. Many people have then thought that they could not have what they wanted, but only what they needed. The fact of the matter is that what you want and what you need are the same thing when you have alignment initially with your own intent to heal and then with all of yourself. Denial of me has been involved here too. So many people have thought that I am the God they think I am rather than the God I am, that they have often limited my help to the ways in which they could imagine my help. Very often I am right there and people do not recognize me. You have the power to limit my presence in your own life, but you do not have the power to limit me. Along with aligning your own spirit and will, you need to align with me. To do this, you need to release all your judgments of what I am and what I am not. All feelings that empower these judgments need release too. When you have aligned in this way, you can ask me to help you and the earth. You can ask me to return the earth to its full beauty and ease of living. You can ask me to help you understand everything on earth and the needs of each thing. You can ask me what the right place is for everything. When you have personal denial, all of you cannot participate in this process of creating your own reality. When denial is present, no matter what part of you I satisfy, I appear to be denying another part of you. When you have alignment, you have agreement about what you want. This agreement allows it to happen if you have responded to this agreement with desire, because nothing in your energy field is in contradiction, and your desire is attracting it to you. The desire is the response of your will that attracts the things you want. When desire is aligned with the spirit, there is no problem. The spirit needs to inspire and guide, and the will needs to respond and thus select. The response of everyone's will is mostly missing right now, and I have seen that denial is why the will has not been responding. Clearing this denial is going to allow true feelings to emerge, and true feelings can then tell me and you how they would like your reality to be. I do not want to deny anything, and I won't, but you have the power to deny yourself. I have the power to make sure that everyone has what they need and want without denying anyone or anything in favour of another. I am asking that denial be ended so you can recognise and accept what I give to you. This recognition needs to be in all parts of you, not just the part that wants to tell me that you already know this. Healing the earth is something that comes along with healing yourself more than you can realize in advance of the experience. You need only begin where you are and let it happen. While it's happening, tell me everything you have in your consciousness and everything you want to have, and be willing to allow yourself to take the path that leads to it. The influence away from free will. Long ago, before there was any experience on earth, the will was denied in the heavens by spirits that did not understand themselves well enough to accept the will. These spirits saw the will as holding them back. They wanted to have more expansive experiences, and their wills were expressing emotion in resistance to this. Overpowering of the will took place in all the possible ways it could take place, including the eventual disconnect from the spirit, and has been reenacted ever since. Many times the will has almost recovered on earth, and as many times this recovery has been undermined by something still held in denial. Because the denial was not recognized, it drew each time an outward reflection that seemed to deny free will by stopping the recovery. If this outward reflection had been recognized for what it was, the will could have recovered by acting out in this reality. The understandings needed were not there then, or recovery would have taken place. The will is not wanting this to happen again, and neither is spirit for the most part. Recovery is not absolutely necessary right now, but it is not something to put off because it seems too hard either. Recovery needs to take place at the right time for you. The failure so far to entirely recover lost will should not be judged as evidence that this cannot be done or should not be done, because free will does not work. Free will needs complete acceptance and not conditional acceptance, so that it can show spirit what its full contribution is. Any spirit that holds any part of itself in denial loses spiritual presence. Many spirits have tried to deny the validity of free will by saying that it is unwise to grant freedom in advance of wisdom. These spirits have promoted rules, regulations, procedures, and the form of learning from teachers and progressing through this form in accordance with approval granted by the ones controlling the form. Freedom, which often boiled down to privilege, was supposed to be granted in accordance with the candidate's ability to accept it wisely. One of the problems with this approach is that someone has to set himself up as judge of what is wisdom and what is the appropriate learning procedure for another. This is another attempt to deny me and to deny my own mother principle, the will. These spirits even claimed authority from me to undermine free will and denied me further in this way. The destiny path of earth has been seriously denied by these teachings. Wisdom for one may or may not be wisdom for another. Limits for one may or may not be limits for another. The path of one may or may not be the path of another. I have given everyone what they need to evolve and fulfill themselves if they accept it. Many that have accepted the influence away from free will have also said that doing what you want to do is selfish and even dangerous. This is ridiculous if you really think about it. A judgment that is held here is that telling others what to do is not selfish, but is instead appropriate. Since not being selfish, in this case, means doing what another wants, who is being selfish? The only person that could appropriately tell another what to do is a person that hears me unconditionally, and that person would only give the advice I wanted given to a person that was not able to hear me on the subject at that time. What feels the best all round is to do for others what you really want to do, and nothing more. Denials shared by many. All of manifested experience so far has been in search of self-acceptance. Attuning the will is not something that can be left out here, and another misunderstanding needs to be straightened out as well. Returning to essence is not the goal of self-acceptance. Self-acceptance must include acceptance that individual consciousness has emerged to evolve essence. While many have believed emergence was a denial of and a separation from spirit, the opposite is actually true. Denial of emergence is denial of the spirit's opportunity to increase its own light through evolvement. Emergence into individual consciousness is not completed when you accept that you have emerged. Every spirit emerged to fulfill its destiny path. Self-acceptance must come first so that you can do what you came forth to do. I am much more complex than almost anyone on earth has yet realized. Some spirits have had so much fear of these realizations and the responsibilities involved that they have tried to avoid them by denying manifestation and form. Others have tried to cope by slowing themselves down and experiencing at a slower speed. Many of these spirits came to earth long ago, and many of the ones trying to cope by slowing down took the forms of animals for reasons of their own. Some did this with complete self-acceptance, and it was no problem. Others did this with a lack of complete self-acceptance that soon led to confusion between themselves and the forms they had taken on. Confusion trapped many in these forms, and this entrapment resulted in the loss of a lot of consciousness. The myths about centaurs, satyrs, minoans, and all the other stories about part man, part animal forms, including animals turning into men and vice versa, are stories about these experiences. When other more experienced spirits saw this happening, some tried to help. Reclaiming the consciousness lost here has been a long process during which most of the ones that came to help have become entrapped on earth also. The reasons for the entrapment were many and differed with individual spirits. Many spirits trapped themselves in animal forms because they wanted to reduce their consciousness and escape from me. Others did it because of the confusion about limits. Others did it because of fear that they could not accept the form they had. Still others did this because they had to try to find out what the trapped spirits were experiencing. Some did this to be like their friends. There are many reasons this experience took place, and only some of the major ones are mentioned here. Many judgments were made around these experiences. Many spirits that did not get trapped judged themselves to be superior to the ones that did get trapped. The ones trapped judged themselves, the other spirits trapped, and the spirits that were not trapped. The problem here was that the judgments did not see each particular situation for what it was. The spirits judging made assumptions that what they comprehended when the judgment was made applied to every experience that contained any similarity. These misunderstandings compounded the problem and made escape from the limitations of these forms much more difficult than would otherwise have been the case. This experience was very painful for the ones that did not enjoy the limitations of the forms they became trapped in. Many judged that those spirits entrapped in animal forms had base and insatiable appetites that drew them to become so animalistic. This was only true for some, but these judgments have affected everyone involved. The understandings need to come in place of the judgments. Some spirits do not want life in human form and need to be allowed this freedom. Others have lost consciousness from this experience that they really want to recover. You need to remember your own past and find out what happened to you. Everyone on earth has involvement in some way, whether they were directly trapped or not. The spirits that lost consciousness without meaning to have a highly emotional charge around this experience that includes overwhelming panic and anger. This charge has not been released yet because even when I taught some spirits on earth how to liberate the trapped ones, they had varying degrees of success in liberating the entire consciousness of the spirits involved. The spirits involved often resorted to denial of the part of themselves that was so overwhelmed and released the rest of themselves from the trap. In fact, most people on earth now do not have their full self present with them. Magical powers that existed in the past have been largely lost because of the reduction in presence that denial has caused. The spirits liberated from animal forms at that time were given human forms in which to evolve back to their full consciousness. All the spirits involved were given human forms, whether they were human types of spirits or not. The main reason for this was that most of the spirits involved believed their lack of self-acceptance and acceptance of one another was largely due to how different they were from one another. I gave the human form and a period of time in which to inhabit it so that the necessary experience could be gained to learn otherwise. Many spirits that embraced expansive consciousness have held a judgment for a long time that everyone should and must love this sort of consciousness the way they do. An understanding is needed here, and this understanding is one of the main points of denial responsible for undermining the recovery of lost will. Some of my spirits seek reduction in consciousness, compression and death, and they must be allowed to have it. Life is just as painful to them as the opposite is to the spirits that embrace life. In holding a judgment, the spirits that embrace life have been unable to see and accept these spirits for what they are. These spirits have been creating death all around them, and expansive spirits have been denying this and trying to take them off their destiny path in my name and in the name of my love. This is not accepting these spirits for what they are and what they need. The judgment that everything is similar in essence no matter what its form was an attempt to simplify me and fit me into the limits of the ones judging me. It was also a denial of true feelings. The will is meant to guide you to your right place and will do it if allowed to. This is the way you can have freedom to seek experience without destroying yourself. This was also a denial of the alignment of form and essence. The only real problem has been that these two realities, that of loving essence which seeks expansion of light and life, and that which denies loving essence and seeks compression and death, should not mix together, and right place is not going to allow it any more. The experience necessary to be able to accept this from me has taken place on earth. Death is unconditional denial of me. It belongs outside of me. This has a place in my creation and has to be understood as you are able to. An understanding of unconditional acceptance is needed here. You need only accept this reality's right to be. This does not mean that you are to accept this reality into yourself and embrace death and denial in any form unless it truly feels good to you. The recovery of free will on earth has been stopped each time by denial. The spirits of loving essence have in the past been unable to let go of the spirits that are not of loving essence, and were unable to accept them for what they are. These denial spirits have even tried to kill loving essence because they have to get away from it somehow, and loving essence was not letting them go. Denial cannot let go on its own. The understanding needed here is that the difference between loving essence that has been denied and the denial of a loving essence is that the one seeks love and has been mistakenly denied, and the other seeks to escape love and has been mistakenly pressured to accept love. This has been further confused by the fact that unconditional denial denies everything, including the fact that it does not want love. Denial that does not have or want loving essence can be felt by the will. The will needs to be allowed to tell you the difference here. The recovery of lost will is going to tell you this because the original undermining of the will was involved with this confusion. The will had the answer immediately concerning the spirits of unloving essence, and spirit would not accept this understanding from the will. In all the recovery attempts so far, recovery of the will has progressed to this point and failed to succeed because the spirit still would not accept the will's feelings here. This teaching has to be accepted from the will before the old charge accumulated in experiences with these denial spirits can be fully released. In other words, this situation cannot change for you until you accept it for what it is. Denial must be seen for what it is on earth. Loving spirits must let go of unloving spirits, and personal denial of loving essence must be ended. Most of the personal denial took place in an effort to prove to me and to yourselves that the will was not right here, and that everyone really did have a loving essence. The judgments made here were many. You need to find the ones you are holding yourself, but I will point out some of them. Everyone judged that their kind of consciousness was the best, and many judged that their kind of consciousness was best for everybody. Many spirits judged that if they were loving enough themselves, they could teach others to be loving like they were. Many spirits judged that I was not unconditionally loving when I told them they were making a mistake here. Undercurrent here was a judgment that they were more loving than me. Another judgment many spirits made was that in time these unloving spirits would come round, that they were just slow. Another judgment made here was that every spirit was supposed to return to me, and so the ones heading away from me were going in the wrong direction. The only other judgment I want to bring forward now as a general judgment that was made by the spirits involved here is that all of you judged against the will for feeling like it wanted these death-creating spirits outside of my creation. Reality is that this is what they seek, want, and need. Death does not feel at all good to the spirits that seek life, and yet you have all embraced it and tried to make yourselves accept it. The understanding you now need is that all denial that is not seeking life must go outside of me. You must separate this reality back out of yourself and let it find its right place. This means letting go of everything that creates death. This means unconditionally letting go of everything involved with death, be it ever so slight an involvement. You need to do this in the way that denies nothing at all in yourself. You must do this at the time that is right for you and in the way that is right for you. In other words, this letting go needs to feel good and not like more self-denial. Even if these understandings seem overwhelming to you at first, they will become clear in time. If you have intent to heal, you need to release all the judgments you can find in yourself and let understandings come in their place. Release of these deep denials is not an easy thing to do, and yet it must be done. The reality needed to show these denials for what they are is intensifying its presence on earth now, and it will help you to clear your denials if you let it. Death is not meant to prevail in my creation. And yes, I am every place, but I am able to experience in a way that you may not be ready for, nor really desirous of. Originally, many of my created spirits tried to force themselves to experience every place because I did, and did not have self-acceptance for their own wills. Originally, you tried to force yourselves to experience this because I did. Although the reality of the denial spirits felt terrible to the spirits of loving essence, and they had to use force on themselves to make themselves experience it, they judged against their own wills and said that it was not the reality of the denial spirits that was terrible for them, but that their own wills were terrible for feeling this way. Many even judged their own wills were creating the death that they were actually just taking in from the denial spirits, and making their wills hold because they wouldn't accept the expression involved in releasing it. The will of a loving essence does not create death. If it is experiencing death, it has taken this in by accepting denial in some form or another, and must reverse this in itself to escape death. The release of denial is going to allow you to find that your right place has no denial present anymore, and will facilitate the process of letting denial find its right place. Many spirits that thought the will was in opposition to spirit thought that the will itself was this denial, when the will was only trying to point out the presence of these denials.